would Israel do that unless
Because
potentially they don't
then
trust us as much as they used to?
I don't think they have ever really trusted us. Listen, in all the years I was at the CIA, literally every single time Benjamin Netanyahu would go to the White House, and I mean starting in the 80s when he was Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, literally every time he would say, please bomb Iran, please. And we would say, no, we're not going to bomb Iran for you. And I'm talking about H.W. Bush, Clinton, W. Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden. Nobody would bomb Iran until Trump said, okay, we'll bomb Iran. And we did. But they've been asking since the 80s for us to bomb Iran. So I think what we saw here was a very long-term operation to develop this compromising intelligence so that you can go to Bill Clinton and say, listen, Trump doesn't want to bomb Iran. We really want him to bomb Iran. And so you need to call Trump and say, bomb Iran, or I'm going to, throw a fit. Or you have 2 people or 3 people or 20 people call Trump and say, bomb Iran, or else they're going to out these guys for being pedophiles. So it's a way of putting this indirect, but still pretty close up pressure to get what they want in the unlikely event that they don't get what they want.
And that makes a lot of sense. But here the question is, if this is this long-term operation with some of the most powerful people in the country, sometimes in the world, that were involved with Jeffrey Epstein, whether it's on his islands, his planes, his homes, our U.S. government, our intelligence organizations didn't know this was happening and couldn't turn it off and put a stop to it?
Well, if they didn't, then everybody at the FBI needs to be fired. Yeah, you raise a very good point here. If you're supposed to be the best counterintelligence organization on the planet, then how in the world did you not know this was happening?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you another thing too. If I'm a visitor to Jeffrey Epstein's house and he says, hey, I've got the cutest little 15-year-old in the next room, why don't you strip down and she'll come in and give you a massage? I would run to the FBI and report that. So why didn't they? Or if somebody did, why didn't the FBI act on it? It doesn't make any sense to me. So either they dropped the ball or this was a cover-up.
But what we saw with the JFK cover-up, and I have another line of questioning about the types of people, but on this point, if it was a cover-up, was it like we saw with the JFK files? Was it a cover-up to cover up their own incompetence, or was it a cover-up for some other reason?
Right. No, you may have hit it on the head. Never underestimate the power of incompetence. An old timer at the agency told me that one time. He said, we like to get wrapped around the axle about, with all these moving parts about this conspiracy and, this happened, that happened. Or maybe the guy's just an idiot. Maybe that's why it happened. He said, and 9 times out of 10, it happened because he's an idiot. So you may have hit it on the head right there.
So assuming that we were just negligent, which, if you saw what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania,
exactly,
how it can happen.
Exactly. Good point.
Assuming we're just negligent and Israel, again, all of these are assumptions because we don't have the information, which is why everyone's so upset. Assuming, but you were in the CIA, so you know what you're talking about here. But assuming that this is accurate, right? Israel activated Jeffrey Epstein to create all of this essentially blackmail to encourage the United States to kind of do Israel's bidding against Iran or whoever their enemies might be. We missed it because we can be incompetent at times. Here's the kind of the bigger issue, right? And we've heard, again, going down conspiracy lane, you've heard things like Pizzagate, and you hear things like, these Diddy freak-offs and all of Diddy's alleged victims. And you saw what just happened in his court case when he's only been convicted of the least serious crimes.
Yeah.
And you see that only Maxwell and Epstein were the only 2 people charged in any of this. You talked about this earlier about how, okay, well, who was on those tapes? It seems like there are who are these people, right? In Hollywood and in your political elites, and you're super powerful. Is it that, not that they kind of laid a trap, but are they so aware? Is it so common knowledge that there are these very powerful people that want to do really disgusting things, and all they had to do was lay the trap out for them? Do we have an institutional pedophilia amongst the powerful in America?
Among some of them, yes, we do actually. Every once in a while, it rears its ugly head. You're probably too young to remember the House Page scandal in the early 1980s when two Democratic congressmen and one Republican congressman were exposed for having sex with underage pages. Now, barely underage; they were 17, but they're legally they're children, and none of them were having sex with the girl pages either of the three. So yeah, there is some of that happens in Washington among the powerful. There's another thing too. Listen, I don't mean to be too cynical. I've been in Washington for now 43 years. And one of the things that has always amazed me is how the ugliest guys in Washington end up with the most beautiful women on their arms. And it's because so many women are attracted to power. And it's easy for these powerful men to just get drunk with this power. And because they're powerful, they lose whatever sense of self-control they had. And the guardrails come down. And then they end up, in scandals. And sometimes the scandals are completely overboard. And that could be what we've seen here in part.
But considering the Diddy situation, right, with what we've
Yeah.
learned about the way he was